I'd like to share the first time that God had saved my life. The very first time that God saved my life was the day that I was born, came into this world. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the grace of God. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the mercy of God protecting me. He saved my life several times throughout my life. But I'd like to talk about the first time. I was born in late March in 1983 in Wilmington, Delaware. Now, in Delaware, in late March, it's rare that we get snow, and it's even rare that we get a big accumulation of snow. Now, at times, yes, every few years we might get some snow, light covering, but nothing that really accumulates too much, at least not from the time I've been alive that I've witnessed. And I've lived in Delaware most of my life. But that year in particular, I even looked up the records because the way my mom said it was kind of a little unbelievable. Uh, but when I look at the records, it made sense. Now, my mom claimed that there was 4 foot of snow outside, and I know that we didn't have no 4 foot of snow. But when I looked up the records, I did find that in some areas there was up to 6 inches of snow that day. But majority of the snow that day was between 2 to 4 inches. Now, the reason why my mom had said that there was 4 foot of snow was because where they lived in an apartment complex, the wind was blowing the snow around, which created snow drifts. And those snow drifts themselves were actually up around 4 feet. My mom said that when my dad had opened the front door, it was literally halfway up the door. She went into labor around 3 o'clock in the morning. And she told my dad, she woke him up and said, "I'm going into labor." My dad said, "Okay, let me go warm up the truck." They had a Blazer at the time. He went to go out the front door and realized that he basically couldn't even get out the front door because of the amount of snow. My mom started flipping out. And she said, "You need to dig a path out there right now because he's coming. And we can't wait for an ambulance." So my dad hurried up, from my understanding, and shoveled a path to his Blazer. Started it up. Got her out to it. And then they started to go to the hospital. Now, going to the hospital, there was a lot of wind. It was snowing heavily. And like I said, on average, there was anywhere between 2 to 6 inches of snow. Now, luckily, they had a Blazer. God put it in the path that they would have that truck at that time. They managed to get to the hospital within an hour. It took them. Now, normally, the distance there would have been about a 20-minute ride. But because of the snow and everything else, it took them over an hour. But they got there a little after 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I came out at around 5:30 in the morning. But the reason why I say that it's the first time that God ever saved my life is because of this. When I was born with the cord wrapped around my neck twice. They told my mom that if it would have been another 10, 20 minutes, I possibly would have been dead. If it would have been another hour, I definitely would have been dead. When I was born, I was already turning blue because of the lack of oxygen that I was receiving because the cord was wrapped around my neck twice. So it's only by the grace and mercy of God. He provided the life for me that I survived long enough till I came out of the womb, and they were able to unwrap the cord from around my neck, and then I was finally able to breathe. But if it was not for him, my parents wouldn't have been able to get out of the apartment with that much amount of snow. If it wasn't the fact that my dad didn't have that blazer, they would have never made it to the hospital. If they would have never made it to the hospital, and they would have had to wait for an ambulance, it could have been an extra 20 minutes, half hour later. And in that time, I could have died. Literally within minutes of my own death at birth, I was saved by God and His grace and mercy and His glory. So for that, I'm thankful to God. That's just the first time He saved my life, and many of times. Thank you, God.